Hey everybody, welcome back to Parenting on the Ranch. Today we're going to be talking about discipline and how we do it in our house, so stick around. We are a family of 5 living on a ranch in Texas.
On our channel, we will cover a variety of topics. These are solely based on our experience and opinions, and we do not hold any degrees in childhood development or education.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Parenting on the Ranch. Today we're going to be talking about discipline and how we do things in our home. But before we do that, my name is Curtis, and this is my beautiful wife,
Jessica.
Thank you very much for tuning in today. Please make sure you click on the subscribe button down in the bottom right hand corner, as well as the bell icon so you don't miss anything. All right, so we're talking about discipline. Discipline, I think, is probably one of the things that nobody likes to do, but unfortunately in this day and age, it has to be done. Well, of course, any day and age, it really has to be done.
Yeah.
But it seems to be a big lacking. As much as I hate to say, it really tends to be a big lacking. But
And everybody, keep in mind, everybody's discipline looks different, especially ours. People always give us that weird look when we discipline our kids, especially in public. They're like, oh my Lord.
yeah, you got to remember, different parents have different situations. I mean, you if you believe in corporal punishment, for example, you have, say you're in the store or something like that, and a kid is just throwing a wall-eyed fit, and if you believe in corporal punishment, you're like, just spank them and get it over with.
Been
Been there, done that, right? But not everybody can.
That being said, though, I have put our kids in timeout in the middle of the toy section at Walmart. And that's when people are like, what is she doing?
Right.
But everybody's discipline looks different. You may not agree with our form of discipline. I do want to remind everybody that our kids come from backgrounds of trauma. Their bodies and brains react a little differently than your normal, typical kid. So that's probably why it looks different, because we have to approach it very
roundabout way.
Yeah. I didn't know how else to say it. But we do remain fair. We bend the needs as needed. We do have house rules. We do have expectations of our kids. But when those needs arise, we do allow some straying from the rules.
Yeah. And we are kind of the old style parenting when it comes to what we expect from our kids. We expect for them to behave in the store. We expect them, to stay at our side. We expect for them to use manners and not talk to strangers, not run off in the store.
That's very hard with Cassidy. If you watched our last, that is very hard with Cassidy, but she's getting better. But I mean, that's the key word. We have expectations of our kids, but it's not like when we pull up in the parking lot, we're not like, okay, stick together. We don't have to go through the list of our expectations because they know them. It's kind of like an unwritten rule. We stick together, we do everything. So I don't think we've ever really had that getting out of the car talk, like stick together, hold hands, don't run in the parking lot, all those things. So in our house, we do, how do we say this? We do have like an order to the way that our discipline goes, right?
Right.
I mean, we do keep that pretty strict, pretty consistent.
And you have to be consistent. I mean, you can't do it one way one time and one way or the other, or one way for this kid and one way for the other. You have to be consistent in how you're parenting. Otherwise, they're just going to get mixed signals and not going to understand, what you expect of them.
Well, that goes back to the remaining fair. Everybody gets the same discipline. Everybody gets the same chances, but there's always going to be that one situation that doesn't go by your book the way you want it to be. So firstly, in all situations of our kids' behavior, we always want to make sure that there is not a need. And that goes back to small kids. Our kids are currently 3, 5, and 6. Small kids don't always know how to express their emotions or their needs. I mean, just a few nights ago, a cup was thrown at my head because Gage was having an issue and he really didn't have the words that he needed at the time. So we always evaluate the situation and give them those words that they may not have, especially when they're first learning social skills. You know, we want to make sure we ask, you know, are you angry? Are you upset? Are you thirsty, hungry, tired? That not only helps them explain what they need, but it gives them the word for future use. So they kind of store that away. And our kids are definitely sponges. And I mean, most kids are. But they soak up everything that we say, even when we don't want them to.
But you can't only just give them words. You know, you have to kind of explain to them what each one of those words mean. Because, you know, they don't, I mean, they hear you. They can repeat the words, but they don't know what it means necessarily. You know, they don't know that, you know, because my tummy's rumbling, I'm hungry. They probably do.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably one of the things that they get first off is hungry. But, you know, are they upset? Are they angry? You know, they might not put 2 and 2 together. So you kind of have to explain it just a little bit more than just, are you hungry? Are you angry?
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, in evaluating it, need to be basically that's what comes up. You know, you say, you know, are you upset that somebody knocked over your toys? Or, you know, are you thirsty because your cup is empty? Or, you know, whatever. So we want to, I mean, we have, like I said, we have to teach them and help them express their words. And then once you do evaluate that there is a need, you want to show them the appropriate way to go about getting those needs met. I mean, if you're hungry, then say, you know, can I have a snack? Or, you know, if you're thirsty, Mom, can you fill my cup up? You know, you have to show them, because if we don't teach them as their caregivers or parents, they're never going to learn those appropriate back to social skills, those appropriate skills that they need in life. So once we have evaluated if there is a need and we've taken care of that need, if the behavior still continues, or something else happens, we always start our discipline with a do-over. It's basically a second chance to go about it the right way. So if they have a behavior, it's not due to a need, you know, we give them initially a warning. You know, we don't hit because it hurts, or, you know, that's your first warning. So once that is given, generally our kids, I mean, we've been doing it for so long, generally our kids will say, you know, I'm so sorry. They'll apologize to whoever they did it to, and then they'll ask for a second chance. It's basically you explaining how it should have happened and giving them that chance to try it, to see if they can maneuver that. Because again, if you don't teach them and give them the space to learn, they're never going to learn it. So once we've given a do-over, and I mean, we move on with our day. If the behavior continues or it happens again, then that is when they get a consequence. We use several options of consequences, which we'll get to in a minute. But we give a consequence, they have their consequence, and then we move on with our day. And I mean, it just repeats. The cycle repeats. I mean, but after that, if the behavior continues, I mean, obviously the consequences are different. That's why we have so many options. If the behavior stops, which most of the time it does, because nobody likes consequences, our kids handle consequences well. They are generally efficient enough to basically draw a ceasefire on that behavior. But at the end of the day, I mean, everybody gets a do-over. If it continues, we get a consequence. If it doesn't continue, and they handle it appropriately the next time or if they handle it appropriately the next time that it happens, heavy praise, especially if they learn after the do-over. High praise, because that's a hard skill to learn. So every day starts fresh. Every day starts new with the do-overs. If we wake up in the morning and the same behavior continues, we always start with the do-over. That's the easiest way to go.
The way that this whole thing works, with the do-over, with the consequence and stuff like that, is one of the things that we've kind of adapted from our own parenting style to something that we learned from one of our kids, or our previous foster kids therapist, and it's called The Good Road, Bad Road. And I'm going to post a picture of it here on the screen that you can see now of what this actually is.
So every good road, bad road map starts with the choice. So if we make a good choice, we stay on the sun shines, rainbows, happy birds, trees, everything. So say, for example, Raven hits Gage. She makes a choice to hit and she goes down the bad road. And she comes to this little slow down sign. So say she hits and she automatically apologizes, right?
Right.
So she will go back to the good road, no consequence, no do-over. She did it on her own and she got back to the good road. So say later on, she makes a choice to hit again. She doesn't apologize, and she gets to the little bitty stop sign. This is where we as parents will intervene. We will make her aware of what happened, what she did, that she should have apologized, but we got to this point. So this is where she's given the do-over. We make her apologize or tell her to apologize. She gets her second chance that she asked for, and she goes back to the good road. So say 5 hours later, she decides to hit again. She's not a hitter. Just keep that in mind. Most of the time. But if she makes the choice to hit again, and she does not self-correct, and we have already given a consequence, she goes way up here to this little road closed sign. This is where, again, we step in. We explain that she made the choice to hit. She did not self-correct. She already had a do-over for it. And now she has to have a consequence. Once she has her consequence, we will go back across the longest bridge to the good road. And we'll move on with our day.
It's the longest road. The last road is the longest road because it has the biggest consequence, the biggest time to take between the bad road and the good road, because she is getting that consequence. Whether it's a time in or a time out, or she's grounded, or spanking, or whatever it is, it takes the longest time for her to get from the bad road to the good road. So that's where the biggest consequence is. So speaking of time ins and time outs, most parents will say, you're in time out. They'll send the child to the corner. They'll send the child to a place that is away from everybody else. They'll make them face the wall. They'll make them put the nose in the corner, whatever it is. And that's how they have to process what's happened and get through the consequence that they're doing.
I hate timeouts.
And yes, absolutely. But in aspect of their age, I think, is where timeouts are good versus bad.
They are effective, but only after a couple of things, in my opinion. First off, they have to be old enough to process it. Mm-hmm. Secondly, they have to have the skill to process it and be able to learn from it. So, I have a hard time putting Gage in timeout because he's 3. Mm-hmm. He, especially that first time, I have put him in timeout. That first time, I just wasted my time. He didn't learn anything from it. I didn't, it didn't affect me except for drive me crazy. But I mean, it just wasn't a positive experience. It wasn't a learning experience. It just freaked him out and, pulled my hair out.
Right.
So we choose not to time out. We have on occasion. I mean, it's very rare, but we choose not to do time out.
But those that we do are typically with their older kids because they do have the skills to work through what they're, you go to timeout, think about what you did. They're going to go there and they're going to say, okay, this is what I did, this is how I can correct it, this is how I can do it better next time. Which is why it typically works better with older kids because they have that capability to go through and work it all out in their head and then come back and talk to us about it. But with the younger kids, they don't. I mean, they're going to fiddle with their hands, they're going to mess with the wall, they're going to, play with their hair, whatever. They're not going to be thinking about what they did wrong. They're just going to know that they did something wrong.
But if you choose to put your kids in timeout, just, we always think about if they are able to sit alone and process it, and will it really change the behavior? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we choose to do time in, which is a little more effective, because I think when you put a kid in timeout, they're going to play and stuff like that. But like our kids, when we put them in timeout, especially now, like I think especially for Cassidy, it diminishes a lot of her self-esteem, because instead of thinking about, okay, I'm sitting in the corner because I knocked over somebody's Legos and I got a consequence, or what else? I mean, I ran around the house crazy, whatever it was. Instead of her sitting there and processing that, she turns inward, like, I'm not good enough to be over there playing with them, or I wasn't good enough to, what, I don't even, I mean, I'm running out of examples.
They don't like me anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not my friends anymore.
She turns totally inward and it just tears down her self-esteem. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that's why mainly I choose not to do it, because I don't want to put her in a position to think that she's not good enough to be involved with everybody else. We choose to do what's called time in. How we do it and the purpose of it, I think, goes a lot to building their self-esteem, their processing skills, all those things. But it also gives them a lot of social skills in that, because we still do, typically in timeout, you do 1 minute per the age of the child. So in time in, we do 1 minute per age of the child. It's still the same. They still get that same amount of time. But ultimately, it gives us, as the parents or caregivers or whoever, your grandparents, it gives you the time to teach them and model the appropriate behavior, the expectation, how they should go about processing the situation.
Do role playing. When they're sitting there next to you, do a role play with them. You hit somebody, so we're going to go over that. Okay, so I'm going to hit you now. You tell me how you feel or what you should do in because of or what you would like me to do to make you feel better. Well, I would like you to apologize. Okay, well, I'll apologize. Why should I apologize? Because we're not supposed to hit. Because it's not nice. Because I don't like it. All those kind of words you're going to go over with them and work with them, their feelings, their emotions of what's going on, why it was not a proper thing to do. And that gives you the one-on-one time with them while your other kids are, doing whatever they need to do. You get that one-on-one time to teach them the proper way to handle a situation, give them the words so they have it next time. And it's more, a bonding type thing as well.
But with that, I mean, time in, it's typically they're alone, they're sitting in a corner, or time out rather. With time in, I mean, you could be doing the dishes together, because it kind of gets them out of their headspace of, and they'll talk about it a little bit better, especially the older kids. It's typically they are glued to you. Whatever you're doing, cooking, cleaning, folding laundry, it just takes them away from the situation and calms them down enough to be able to talk about it, like you said. We have expectations of our kids, so we sometimes lower our expectations. If you have expectations like sit down, be quiet, and you get all the way to our consequences, maybe our expectations are too high, especially like Gage. I can't get him to sit still and be quiet for the life of me, unless he has his iPad or Bluey's on TV. But sometimes the expectations for him might be too high that I don't get the desired behavior that I want. So, when we go to town, they know I have expectations. Everybody has an off day. But, in those moments, I need to lower my expectations of him. Bring it down to a level that he can achieve, so we're both at peace. We're both on an even keel, because if my expectations are too high, it's just going to be a disaster.
Whenever we do discipline as parents or caregivers or whatever, we need to make sure that the consequence that they're getting is justified for whatever the issue was, and be fair with the consequence. You're not going to, if somebody, say, spilt a cup of water or something like that, you're not going to give them a spanking for that. I mean, that the ends doesn't justify the means.
Yeah.
If I use that right. But anyways, you want to make sure that it matches. You're not gonna have one extreme consequence for a very minor infraction. So you need to be fair. And if you have more than one kid, you need to make sure that you're fair between those two kids or between those three kids or whatever. But if one person does something and they get a spanking for it, and another kid does something and they get a, don't do that again, that's not fair between them.
But there is being fair, and I do get what you're saying. But you need to keep the consequences fair but individual. Because our kids, Cassidy works better. It just goes better when we come to consequences with talking to her, sitting down, talking to her, because that's the way that she works. Now Raven, she's more of like, give me the consequence and get it over with type of kid. She doesn't really, she like shuts, at least to me sometimes, she like shuts down because she's more afraid of waiting for the consequence than trying to get to the consequence, if that makes sense, And Gage is like, whatever. So, be fair, do give them the range of consequences, but make sure that you're individual too, as to which type of consequence works most efficiently, and especially in your house, because otherwise you might be losing a uphill battle.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to do it all together. Sit down with all your kids and talk about it. Talk about what just happened, what should have happened, the way that it should have happened, and the words, and expressing their feelings on what should be done next time. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. In our case.
But we do that a lot. That's basically how we end our day most of the time. Good or bad, right or wrong, and they always rat each other out before we get to each one of them. But we always try to sit down and talk through what happened and how it could have been different. So I think it's a good thing to just, family circle time and hash it out. Because they will learn. They do listen. So, and they know, I say they rat each other out. They do know what the other one should have done in that case. So it kind of helps. And I think too, more peer-to-peer helps. And helps them grow better than mom and dad telling them for the 800th time, we don't hit, we don't run in the house, whatever it is. So I think that's a good thing to do. At least try it. I mean,
Yeah, and a lot of times with when one of our kids does something that they shouldn't, and the other one rats them out, we'll say, okay, well, did they say they're sorry, or did you use your words saying that you didn't like it, or what should you have said? And then we'll send them back to the situation and give with the words and with how to fix it, and they'll go back and fix it and move on with their day, and it'll be done and over with.
those are the best times. Well, they're going to need that skill through their adulthood. So, we are big on trying to, especially the older kids, we give them 2 consequences and let them pick.
Yeah, 2 consequences that we're
we
okay
like.
with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But give them the opportunity to feel like they're in charge or they're in control of their future, and that gives them not only the decision making skills, but it also makes them feel like they're part of the solution.
Yeah. Also, too, a big thing for us is to make sure you keep in mind a child's cognitive age. So if we're talking about, I'm gonna blast her here. So for instance, we're talking about Raven. She is 6. Physically, most of the time mentally she is 6, but some situations come up that her 6-year-old brain kind of reverts back to her 4-year-old brain. Something that she didn't learn between 4 and 6, that we need to bend those rules and parent the need, not just the child or the age or the situation. I mean, we really have to adapt our discipline and consequences to her mental capacity at that moment.
And a lot of times with children, especially those that come from trauma, if a situation arises where they had that situation when they were in the situation of the trauma, that's where their mind will go back to.
Yeah.
If you have a kid that was was hit a lot when they were 2 years old or 4 years old or whatever, and they're 16-year-old now, if they are put back in that situation, a lot of times their mind can revert back to that 2-year-old.
It's kind of like a flashback hits them, and they'll act that same age. Yeah. So I mean, everybody, your own kids, you know their situations, things that they can handle, but like in foster care, it is very hard to know everything, especially if you have an older kid and you don't have their entire backstory. I mean, thankfully we got our kids when they were 1 and 2 and 5 months. So I mean, there's not a whole lot of mystery there. We kind of knew. So just keep that in mind whenever a situation arises, especially if you see them flashback. Because, I mean, you can be looking at a 16-year-old that acts with the maturity of a 6-year-old, that something's wrong. And that's when you want to go all the way back to evaluate the situation, evaluate their need, and just start from there. Another type of consequence that we do, it's not really a consequence, but we do big redirections. So if the kids are fighting over something, we take the one, pick one, take the one that's having the hardest time with it. So like today, for instance, Raven was playing Legos and Cassidy and Gage were cleaning up, but they were cleaning up her Legos and she was highly emotional over it. She was so upset. I mean, they had the whole living room to pick up, so let's just put it that way. So she was so upset and crying and screaming, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in that type of situation, we would take the other two out and leave her be. just like, well, this morning too, Gage is not a morning person at all. So we take Cassidy and Raven and tell them, just give them some space. So we redirect them to do something else. Or in some situations, it's like the kids are fighting and we're like, hey, come help me put up these plates from the dishwasher. Or, will you run in my room and get something? Or whatever it is. It just gets them away from this situation. You really, there's not one thing to pinpoint if it's just chaos. So you kind of separate them all. They calm down. And then most of the time they'll go back to doing what they're actually supposed to be doing or playing together. So, redirection happens a lot. And it's one of those things you really don't think that you're doing it. But when it's noisy and kind of crazy, I'm like, I need to help her. And it
immediately
basically
they're done fighting, and both of them, they're done fighting with what they were fighting over,
and
now
then they fight over mom's helper.
Yeah. But whatever way that you choose to parent your kids, and if you take any of this advice and use it, just be consistent. That's one of the things that is a absolute must with any parent. Be consistent with your rules, be consistent with your expectations, be consistent with your consequences. Being consistent is something that you have to do as a parent. It is an absolute must, and I cannot stress it enough.
Top priority every day is just wake up, be consistent, be present, and be consistent. And make sure you know what's going on before you jump into, action, basically. And before you jump into go to timeout or go sit on your bed or you're grounded or whatever it is, just make sure that you're present and know what's fully going on before anything else.
Look past the behavior that's going on to recognize the underlying need that is there, whether it is, they need extra attention, they need a drink, they're hungry, whatever it is. Look past that behavior and determine if there's a need behind it. And last but not least, and probably the most important thing, move on with your day. Once you have given the consequence, once you have talked about it, once you are done with the situation, move on with your day. It's not going to be, remember what you did an hour ago. No, just move on with your day. Get it done, get it over with, and move on so that you don't dwell on it.
Well, if we as parents can't move on with our day or set past something, you can expect your kids to do the same. So,
yeah.
It's discipline for us is very, very, very slow. It's very slow, but then you look at it, or someone out from the outside looking in, it looks crazy, so they may not know how to do it, or somebody might say something about your skills, but just remember they're your kids and you know how to do it.
Yeah. So next week we're going to be talking about our routines and how we have developed our schedule, how we stick to the schedule, and how we've rearranged it 1,000 times. So make sure you tune into that. Please subscribe to the channel. Share this video with your friends and our channel with your friends. We have a very easy way to get to our YouTube channel as of tonight when we're recording this. Simply go to parentingontheranch.com and it'll take you right to our YouTube channel. So share that link with your friends. Share this video, like it, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Leave a comment below. Let us know how you discipline your kids, what your first step is. Let us know in the comments. So we're also doing a couple other videos. We'll be talking maybe more about it in the next video. We're going to be doing a Tuesday video from now on as well. So Tuesday and Friday will be our video dates. So until next time, y'all, see you later.
See you later.